The HOA meeting room was packed. Folding chairs scraped against the floor as residents whispered and shifted uncomfortably. In the back corner, Major Elijah Brooks sat quietly, hands folded in his lap, wearing a plain brown jacket and faded jeans. His military hat rested on the chair beside him. Karen stood up, lips tight, arms crossed. Her voice sliced through the room. "He's lying," she snapped. "He ain't no hero. Probably faked the whole thing just to get respect around here." The chatter stopped. Silence fell hard. Elijah didn't react. He didn't flinch. He just looked at her. Calm, still, unreadable. A couple of young guys near the door chuckled under their breath. "I mean, look at him," one said. "Dude probably bought that hat off eBay." Karen doubled down, pointing at Elijah like she was in charge of a courtroom. "Go ahead, show us some proof. Where's your medals? Where's your record? Anybody can claim they served." Elijah blinked slowly, eyes fixed on her, like a man who'd seen 100 Karens before her, and worse. A woman from the back whispered to her husband, "Is this really happening?" An older man, probably in his 80s, raised his head from a nap and looked across the room. "That man's the base commander," he mumbled. Gasps. Karen froze for a half second, then rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, y'all believe anything." No one stood up for him. No one asked her to stop. Elijah didn't speak. He just leaned back in his chair, watching everyone like he was measuring the silence. The room didn't know it yet, but they had just insulted the wrong man. It was always the same routine. Early morning, no noise, just the wind and the sound of Elijah's boots on the sidewalk. He didn't talk much to the neighbors. Most of them didn't talk to him either. Some waved, mostly out of habit. Others crossed the street like he wasn't part of the same community. He didn't mind. He'd been ignored before. In towns, in offices, in uniforms. Every morning he walked to the small local store and bought two things, a newspaper and a bottle of water. The cashier was a teenager named Kevin, always polite. "Good morning, sir," Kevin would say. "Morning," Elijah replied. Sometimes that was the only conversation he had all day. He lived alone in a small two-bedroom house at the edge of the neighborhood. A flag stood in front of it, always straight, always clean. There was a framed photo in his hallway, 3 soldiers in uniform standing in the dust of a foreign land. 2 of them were gone now. One coin sat near the photo, shiny, gold-rimmed, a gift from a brother in arms. He never showed it off. He never had to. The park was his favorite spot. He'd sit on the same bench every Thursday at 5 p.m. Quietly. Kids played nearby. Their parents kept a careful eye, especially when he was around. One mother pulled her child close, whispering, "Don't stare. Just keep walking." Elijah noticed. He always did. But his face never changed. A calm that came from years of seeing real danger, of knowing what matters and what doesn't. From a distance, Karen watched him sometimes. She didn't hide the way she looked at him, like he was out of place, like he didn't belong. One evening, a man in a truck passed by and honked. Elijah gave a respectful nod. The man yelled, "Stolen valor ain't impressive, old man." The truck sped off. Elijah didn't move, didn't react, just sat there. That's who he was. Quiet, measured, dangerous if provoked. But until now, no one had ever pushed him far enough to see it. Elijah didn't move, didn't react, just sat there. That's who he was. Quiet, measured, dangerous if provoked. But until now, no one had ever pushed him far enough to see it. The next HOA meeting was more crowded than usual. Word had spread about what happened last time. People came curious, some for drama, others just to see what that quiet black veteran guy would say. Elijah arrived early. Same seat, same silence. A calm presence in the middle of the buzz. Karen walked in late, holding a coffee cup like a trophy. She scanned the room, smirked when she saw Elijah sitting there again. She leaned toward a board member and whispered, "Didn't think he'd show his face again." The meeting began. Petty complaints, fence colors, lawn lengths, noise complaints. Then Elijah stood up. Everyone turned. He wasn't holding anything. No papers, no notes. He just cleared his throat. "I've been here 4 years," he said. "Never missed a payment, never caused trouble. But last month I saw some kids drinking in the park past curfew. I asked them to leave. They laughed and told me I wasn't a real authority, that I was just pretending. And then I heard one of them say, 'Even the HOA doesn't respect that guy.'" Karen leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. "I'm here to ask," Elijah continued, "why is that the impression they have? Is there something I've done to give that off?" The room was quiet. Then Karen spoke. "Oh, please," she scoffed. "You don't get to play victim now. You came in here last time acting like some kind of war hero, but we both know talk is cheap." Elijah didn't respond. Karen kept going. "Do you have proof? Anything? Or are we all just supposed to trust your word?" Someone in the back murmured, "Come on, this is getting out of hand." But Karen raised her voice. "I've been part of this community 10 years. I've watched people lie for sympathy, play the race card, pull the veteran act. I've seen it all." Another board member, Todd, leaned into his mic. "Karen, maybe we could keep this civil?" "No, Todd, let's call it what it is," Karen snapped. "You show up with a hat and a serious face, and suddenly we're all supposed to salute you? No. You want respect? Earn it." A low laugh came from the corner. A younger guy, mid-30s, tattoo on his neck, leaned forward. "Bet he found that hat in a thrift store." Karen smiled. "You know, that's what I was thinking. It's not hard to look the part if you really want to." Elijah still said nothing. His eyes just moved across the room, person to person. Not in anger, not in fear, but in complete disappointment. Another neighbor, Mrs. Dunning, hesitated. She'd known Elijah for years, but never spoken more than a sentence to him. She finally raised her hand. "I've seen him at the base," she said softly. "A few months ago, he was wearing full uniform. People were saluting him." Karen turned sharply. "And you're sure that wasn't just a ceremony thing? Lots of veterans get honored. Doesn't mean he runs anything." Elijah took a slow breath. He opened his mouth to speak, but was cut off again. Karen waved her hand. "You know what? Don't even bother. I've seen your type before. Show up quiet, act wise. Wait for people to ask about your past so you can sound noble. Meanwhile, real members of this community are working." Gasps echoed around the room. Someone muttered, "She's going too far." Another whispered, "Why's nobody stopping this?" A few heads turned to the board president, but he stayed frozen, eyes wide. And still, Elijah stood there, silent, taking it all, letting them talk, letting the room show exactly who they were, until finally he picked up his hat, placed it gently on his head, and sat back down. The air felt heavier than before. Everyone knew something had shifted. They just didn't know how much. The meeting ended without a decision. No apology, no defense. Just people whispering as they left, glancing back at Elijah like he was a headline waiting to happen. That night, Karen posted in the HOA Facebook group, "Beware of people who pretend to be what they're not. Our community deserves transparency." Comments poured in, some mocking, some confused, a few defending Elijah, but drowned out by sarcasm and laughing emojis. By morning, everyone had seen it. Elijah didn't respond. He never did. Instead, 2 days later, he showed up at the HOA office, quiet, early, before the next session. Karen was already there. She sipped her coffee, pretending not to notice him. But he walked straight past her and handed an envelope to the board president. "Just for the record," Elijah said, "so no one has to guess anymore." Then he left. Didn't wait for a reaction. Didn't look back. Inside the envelope was a copy of his military credentials, service history, a medal citation, and one other thing, a laminated ID card. At the top, Department of the Air Force below, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Title, Base Commander, Active Duty. By noon, the board group chat was exploding. "Is this real? Did we just harass a commander? Holy, What do we do now? Karen didn't say a word. That evening, the HOA meeting was packed again. Word had spread fast. Elijah walked in slowly. No uniform, no papers. Just the same brown jacket and quiet eyes. Karen avoided looking at him. The board president stood up. We'd like to begin this meeting by correcting something, he said. We owe a member of this community an apology. Major Elijah Brooks is not only a veteran, he's an active duty base commander with the United States Air Force. Gasps. Real ones. From people who were laughing days earlier. The silence was unbearable. Someone stood up in the back, an older man in a leather vest, saluted. Then another. And another. Elijah didn't move. Karen finally looked at him, face pale, lips tight. Why didn't you say anything before? She asked quietly. He turned to her, calmly. Because I don't owe you an explanation. Respect isn't requested. It's observed. She tried to speak, but the words stuck. Elijah continued. Last week I watched you insult the uniform. Not just mine, but everyone who's ever worn it. And no one stopped you. That told me everything I needed to know. A long silence followed. Then the crowd clapped. Slow, steady, building. Not loud, but heavy. Like shame. Karen stepped back, visibly shaken. She opened her mouth to defend herself, then closed it again. Elijah nodded at the board president. I've said what I needed to. He turned, walked out. And this time, everyone watched him go. By morning, the story had reached outside the neighborhood. A local news reporter picked it up first. Veteran disrespected at HOA meeting, turns out he's base commander. It hit Facebook, then Twitter, then the military forums. Everyone had an opinion. Most were furious. How do you disrespect a commander? This is why people don't trust HOAs. Another case of racist HOA behavior. Karen deactivated her Facebook account within hours. But it was too late. A retired colonel from the same base commented under the news story. I know Major Brooks. He's the real deal. One of the calmest and most respected leaders I've ever worked with. The post went viral. Elijah said nothing. He went on with his day like always. Groceries, morning walk, quiet afternoons on the porch. But the HOA office was in chaos. The board met in emergency session. Todd, the only one who had tried to calm Karen before, finally spoke up. We need to issue a public statement, now. Karen sat stiff in her chair. I didn't know who he was, she said. Todd replied, you didn't care. She didn't answer. Another member chimed in. This isn't the first time, Karen. You filed noise complaints only against black families. You denied garden permits to Mr. Hill's family, but approved the same setup for your friend across the street. We all let it slide, but now the world is watching. Karen's face turned red. That has nothing to do with this, she muttered. The board president didn't let it go. It has everything to do with it. The next day, the HOA posted a formal apology on their website and emailed it to every resident. We deeply regret the disrespect shown to Major Elijah Brooks, a decorated officer and honorable member of our community. We are reviewing all leadership roles within the HOA and will be taking immediate action. But the damage was already done. A group of military veterans showed up at the next HOA meeting. Full uniforms, silent. They didn't speak, just sat in the back, arms crossed, eyes forward. Karen walked in, saw them, and froze. One of them stared directly at her. No words, just a long, unblinking look. She sat down quietly. No coffee cup this time. No smirk. Local news vans parked outside. A reporter tried to get a statement from her. Karen, do you regret what you said? She pushed past the mic, mumbling. No comment. The clip aired that night. Comments flooded in. She can't even say sorry. Textbook racism, hiding behind HOA rules. She's done. The board received letters from residents demanding her resignation. Elijah, still silent, received dozens of letters. Handwritten, typed, anonymous. I'm sorry I didn't speak up. You've earned more respect than we deserve. My father served too. Thank you. He read them all and filed them away quietly, not to be displayed, but to be remembered. The HOA board met behind closed doors. But the outcome didn't stay private for long. Within hours, a statement was pinned to the community bulletin and posted online. Effective immediately, Karen Mitchell has been removed from her position as HOA president for behavior unbecoming of leadership and for actions that disrespected a member of the United States Armed Forces. Some cheered. Others stayed quiet, unsure how to feel after staying silent for so long. But the story wasn't over. The local newspaper ran a front-page headline: Base Commander Humiliated by HOA President Community Responds. Karen was photographed leaving the board office, head down, hiding behind sunglasses. A reporter caught up with her. Karen, do you have anything to say to Major Brooks? She paused, then whispered, I didn't mean for it to go this far. But the damage was done. Later that week, the community held a town hall. Not an HOA meeting, a public forum. Residents packed the gym, people who'd never shown up before. Some brought signs, respect our veterans. Silence is complicity. Elijah arrived late. He didn't walk in with anyone. No entourage, no uniform. Just the same calm presence. When he stepped through the doors, the crowd stood. Every single person. Not a cheer, not applause. Just silence. Out of respect, the board president motioned to him. Major Brooks, we'd like to say something on behalf of everyone here. Elijah shook his head gently. You don't need to, he said. But the board president insisted. We stayed silent when we should have stood beside you. That silence spoke louder than her words. For that, we're sorry. Karen wasn't there. She hadn't been seen since her removal. Rumor had it she put her house on the market the next day. Elijah turned to the room. I didn't come here to get respect. I came here to give it to this community. I asked kids to leave the park because I care about where we live. That was mistaken for arrogance. That's fine. But when someone mocks the uniform, that doesn't offend me. That offends everything we stand for. A quiet voice from the front row asked, Why didn't you say something earlier? Elijah looked at her. Because if your respect depends on knowing my rank, then it was never respect in the first place. The room stayed silent. No one had anything to add. There was nothing left to say. Later that evening, people walked past his house and left folded letters on his porch. Flowers. A small American flag. A young couple left a tray of food and a note. Thank you for being better than we deserved. He opened the door once, nodded at them, and said 2 words. I see you. They smiled and left quietly. The next morning, Karen's house had a for sale sign in front of it. She never said goodbye. She didn't have to. The neighborhood had already moved on. Without her. Sunday morning. The street was quiet. No kids yelling, no dogs barking, just the sound of wind moving through leaves. Elijah stood on his porch, sipping black coffee. Same porch, same calm. But something had changed. Across the street, the same neighbors who once ignored him now waved. Not forced waves, not awkward, respectful, genuine. He nodded back, just once, and went back to watching the sunrise. Down the sidewalk, a young black boy rode his bike past Elijah's house. Slowed down, braked. He looked nervous, looked like he wanted to say something. Elijah stepped off the porch and walked toward him. The boy stood still, gripping the handlebars. My teacher said, You were a hero, he said quietly. Elijah knelt slightly to meet his eyes. I'm just a man, he said. But you're still writing your story. Don't let anyone else hold the pen. The boy nodded, saluted him, and Elijah saluted back. He turned, walked toward the park, the same one where parents once pulled their kids away from him. And now people were already there. Families, kids, neighbors. They made space for him as he arrived. No one said anything. They didn't need to. He sat down on the old bench. Same spot. But this time, the silence around him didn't feel like distance. It felt like respect. A woman nearby whispered to her husband, "That's him." The man simply said, "Let him be. He's earned the quiet." The sun climbed higher, casting gold across the lawn. Elijah leaned back, closed his eyes for a moment. Peace. Not the loud kind, the earned kind. And though no one heard it, everyone felt it. He didn't say a word, but the whole neighborhood finally listened.